Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about the makeup application process. And this is for all the makeup lovers out there, whether you're a beginner or you've been using makeup for a long time and you're just looking for ways to perfect the steps of the application process. Just like anything, makeup can be done in many ways and it can be experimented with in order to achieve different types of makeup looks. While it gives us freedom to do so, there are a series of steps to apply makeup in order to achieve the most flawless look possible. And before we get into application, it's important to look at what you're personally going for with your makeup look. Some people prefer light and natural makeup, while others love the full glam, layering it all on look that you see here. So depending on the look you want, these steps covered today may vary or they may not even happen in your makeup routine. For example, I don't like to wear blush, but we still want to talk about that step because a lot of people do wear blush. While some of these steps can vary, others should remain consistent, but we will talk about that as we go. Skin is so important in a makeup routine. Before you apply any makeup at all, the skin needs to be prepped so it can act as a strong base for everything that's about to go down. Caring for your skin and using products like moisturizers and SPFs are the main steps in protecting and caring for your skin. If you think about it, if you're a type of person who wears makeup every day, your skin is really taking a beating. And besides makeup, your skin goes through a lot like seasonal change and exposure to the elements. And since your skin does play such a big role in makeup application, it's important to know your skin and your skin type. So here is a chart that displays the different types of skin. The first one we see here is dry skin. It's labeled as feeling stretchy, tight, flaky, that scaly look that if makeup is applied on top of it, it's just going to flake off and it's not going to look smooth and cohesive. The next one here is normal skin. This is the type of skin that feels neither stretchy nor oily. It's a good balance of all of the skin types. And the next one we see here is combination skin. This type of skin is oily in the T-zone, and then it will be either dry or normal everywhere else. So the T-zone gets its name because of the areas that it covers. So the top part of the T would stretch across your forehead, and then the bottom part of the T stretches down the bridge of your nose to the tip of your nose. So your forehead and your nose area would be oily in your T-zone. And the next type of skin is oily skin. That's oily skin all over, produces more oil than usual. And like I mentioned before, seasonal change can impact your skin type as well. A lot of people will experience dry skin in the winter and then more oily skin in the summer. So it's all about knowing your skin and knowing how to care for it. Okay, now it's time to talk about application. Right before we get to applying makeup products, we have to determine what we're going to be applying it with. There's a lot of tools out there, but of course there are some that work better than others, and again, it's a situation of personal preference for what look you're going for. Now you can see these sponge tip applicators here that were a necessity for eyeshadow application in the 90s and the early 2000s. But now a lot of brushes have come out for essentially every aspect of makeup application on the face. So just going from old types of application to new types of application and discovering which techniques work the best for you and knowing what you like and knowing most of all what works well. And aside from eyeshadow application, there are many other tools for essentially every aspect of makeup. Beauty blenders, what you see here, they're a huge part of foundation application today. And like I said, brushes can be used for essentially every aspect of the face. There's brushes for concealer, powder, bronzer, and even brushes for foundation as well. And of course, even though they're not used for actual makeup application, they still help us with our makeup look, like tweezers for our eyebrows, eyelash curlers for our eyelashes, and of course, a sharpener for eyeliner pencils and eyebrow pencils as well. So our first step in our makeup application is going to be primer. And sorry guys out there, no, not paint primer, but essentially it does do the same thing. Once you have applied your moisturizer, facial serums, SPF to your skin, you're ready for the primer. And primer gives a good smooth base, so anything applied on top of it is going to appear smoother, polished, and last longer. And there are different types of primers out there that yield different types of effects. Some are matte and pore filling, and others are radiant and provide a glow or a sheen to the skin. And primer can be applied with a beauty blender or brush, or just dabbing the primer into the skin with your fingertips in the desired locations that you want the primer to be. Foundation is similar to primer and how they provide different finishes to the skin and different types of coverage. And of course, there are different brands of foundation. Drugstore is much cheaper, but the selection may not be as wide. And then we have high-end foundation, which is usually very high performing, but they are very expensive. In relation to the skin types we went over earlier, a lot of foundations will say right on the bottle what type of skin it works well on. And unfortunately, it's a lot of trial and error for what kind of coverage you want, what foundation works best with your skin type, and finding your shade match as well. And foundation, of course, can be applied with a dampened beauty blender, with a brush, or with your fingertips as well, but with a beauty blender is the best method. And then our next step we see here is concealer. Concealer is used to cover up under eye bags and dark under eye circles. You can use it to cover up blemishes as well, and use it in any other place that you feel like you need more coverage. As you see here, she's applying her concealer in a upside down triangle formation. And what this does is, instead of having a clearly indicated line of here's where my concealer stops and here's where my foundation is, it gives it a more blended look. So by doing the triangle, you're blending it down the cheek, and then if you use a beauty blender or a brush to blend it out, it'll blend in with the foundation instead of having a harsh line where you can see where your concealer ends. You want it to be blended, and you want it to look flawless, and you want it to give you the best look possible. And this will also highlight the cheeks by making it lighter than the rest of the face. And our next step would be powder. So you can apply powder all over the face. Because foundation and concealers are liquid, they like to smudge and move around if you would touch your face. So what powder does is it locks it in place and makes it last longer throughout the day, and also keeps you matte. And that is called setting your face, by locking your foundation in like that. And then another very big trend with makeup is baking. So what baking is taking a brush or a beauty blender and picking up an excess amount of powder and applying it under the eyes where you have just applied your concealer. And you won't want to put on an excess amount, because what happens when your skin heats up, and it heats up the makeup as well, and then it becomes more melded into the skin. So that's why it gets its name baking. And so everything comes together under the eyes, and you leave that on for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then you take a fluffy brush and you dust away the extra powder that didn't get absorbed into the skin. And that leaves you with a very poreless, matte look that should stay crease-free and stay in place throughout the day. Our next step here is contour and bronzing. So there are cream contour products and powder contour products. If you're going to use cream contour products, you want to apply that before you would apply any powder and do any sort of setting or baking, because cream products do not sit well on top of powder products. It looks very cakey. So if you're going to do cream, do that before any powder. But if you're going to do powder, then you can put powder on top of any other powder. So contouring is like essentially carving out the face by using a product that's darker than your skin tone. So you can see here on her cheekbones, under her chin, around her forehead, and her nose as well, she has that darker color. And when she blends that out, it's really going to carve out the shape of her face. It's going to make her nose look more defined. It's going to carve out those cheekbones. And the lighter cream that's on her face, that is a type of highlighting that you can do. It's really going to accentuate the high points of the face that catch the light the most. And bronzing can be applied in the same places that you apply the darker contour. And bronzing is another way to get that dark, carved out look of your face so you don't look so pale and one-dimensional. And it's another good way to get a very sun-kissed look. And our next step here is eyebrows. Eyebrows are a huge trend. They've obviously changed a lot over time. And the most common products that you can use for eyebrows are powders, pencils, or pomades. What a pomade is, it's like a very stiff cream product that you use an angled brush with most of the time. And then because it is a stiff cream, it's easier to work with if it were like a very wet, greasy type of cream. And these are just the different types of shape. We have arched, a steep arch, an S-shaped brow, a rounded shaped one, and a straight one. This is mostly knowing what you like. I use a powder product for my brows. And then I clean up the edges with concealer, which is another really good step in making sure you have a good shape and a good sharp tail on your brow. Our next step is mascara and lashes. Mascara is obviously applied with the applicator that it comes with in the tube. They can either be soft bristles or they can be more firm. And mascaras do have a lot of different claims, whether it's volumizing or lengthening. And if that's not enough of a dramatic effect for you, then false lashes are always an option. Again, it just depends on what look you're going for. And then you can apply mascara obviously on your top lashes or your bottom lashes based on whatever look you personally like. Our next step would be highlight and blush. Highlighter is such a big thing nowadays. It's a really big trend. Everybody wants to have that glowy, sun-kissed skin. And highlighters, they're applied to the high points of the face. So that would be on the cheekbones, on the brow bone. A lot of people like to do the bridge of their nose and the tip of their nose. And then their cupid's bow, which is that spot right above your top lip in the middle. And that can be applied with a fluffy brush, or you can use a fan brush to get a more precise application. And then blush. Blush is something that I personally don't like to wear because my skin is already very red, so I like to cover up the redness in my skin with foundation, and I don't like to add red back into it. But for people that do like blush, you use a fluffy brush, and there are blushes with and without shimmer. And then you apply the brush to the apples of your cheeks. Our next step here is eyeshadow and eyeliner. So eyeshadow, again, depends on what look you're going for. There's a ton of palettes out there. They have single pan eyeshadows as well. And they have a bunch of brushes that you can use for eyeshadow to get a really good blended cohesive look. Typically an eyeshadow look has a dark color in the crease, and then it either has a lighter color or they choose a pop of like a really bright color to put on the lid, and then they highlight inside where the tear duct is. An eyeliner, I love a good felt tip eyeliner. Liquid eyeliner works very well. It's my personal favorite. It gives you sharp lines, very precise. It lets you get really close to the lash line. And a good felt tip eyeliner gives you a lot of control, but also has a thin enough tip to give you that very sharp wing. And then lips. For liquid lips, you don't want to apply on a lot of layers because you want to avoid this type of crusty, cakey look. You apply one layer and you let it dry, and you can touch it up throughout the day if you would like to. Of course, there's stuff like liquid lips and lipsticks. That's obviously up to your preference, but you just apply it on the lips in one swift layer and try not to go over it to disturb the setting of the product. And then of course we have touch-up. So there's stuff like setting spray, which makes your makeup last longer, and then blotting sheets that absorb absorb oil, and then just touching up lipstick and stuff like that.